Good morning and welcome to episode 70, the big 70 of Collin and Curtis in the morning. Collin, hello.
Hi, Curtis. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Soaking in these trophies.
Are you excited for this? This is an exciting week.
Yes, it is.
I don't know if you're aware of this. How excited are you for Valentine's Day?
I don't think I've ever been excited for Valentine's Day, and that's kind of a sad thing, but yeah, I don't really think I've ever really been excited for Valentine's Day. I never really liked the candies on Valentine's Day.
Oh, the heart
Yeah, those
candies?
little heart candies. I don't like those candies. So
I really liked so in school, in elementary school, specifically, whenever Valentine's Day would come around, the entire class would have to get Valentines for everybody.
Oh yeah, same here. Yep.
And then you put it in the boxes and whatnot.
Yep.
I always liked those because they had really bad puns.
Oh, of course.
So naturally I was drawn to that. I was getting the character. It's like, oh, here's my favorite cartoon show currently. Here's some SpongeBob Valentines.
Yep.
Nowadays it'd be like, here's some Gravity Falls Valentines. It's Waddles on the being the pig.
I think I had some
Mabel.
like Lord of the Rings ones. That was like when the Lord of the Rings movies were like Fellowship first came out.
Yeah.
Had a bunch of those.
You have my axe.
Yeah. And my heart. I don't know.
That's a good one. We should get into the Valentine card making business.
Yep.
I like that. So, but other than Valentine's, we don't have Persona 5 to look forward to tomorrow, but we do have plenty of other games, and we got some news and some stuff that we've been playing that we can talk about and be happy, no matter what your circumstances are this week, So let's just get into it, Collin. We got quite a bit of news to cover. Some of this we'll be able to fly through.
Oh, I got you.
Speaking of flying, that was completely unintentional. But we're going with it. Collin, do you want to talk to me about Fly Wrench, which is coming out tomorrow?
Yeah, so Fly Wrench is this game developed by the Nidhogg developers. Yeah. Which I don't really think this game has anything to do with Nidhogg.
It looks completely different.
Yeah, so basically what I get from it is you're just like a white line, and you're
basically can flap.
Yeah, it's like flapping, and it's not like a bird though necessarily.
It kind of folds. It's like a piece of paper straight piece of paper that if you just folded it, and it would just kind of flap like that.
Yeah,
as if it was flying.
So it doesn't
look like a wrench.
Yeah, so you gain momentum each time you flap, I guess, or wrench or something.
And there's an obstacle course for each level that you need to kind of navigate through.
Pretty much. They said they've been working on it since 2007, and there was a prototype version of the game back then. Yeah, I don't really know what to think about it. It kind of looks like I don't want to call it it feels like there's a lot of deaths, and it also feels like,
it looks really hard.
Yeah, it looks very hard. There's a lot of deaths, and there's probably a lot of quick restarts. They said there's 199 levels.
They name drop Super Meat Boy in that blog post.
I do see that, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's
I have my expectations in check.
So there's the main campaign, which I assume is the 199 levels, but I guess if you even want to master the game even more, there's a time trial mode, so you can race against other players and get top of leaderboards. I don't know if I'm that dedicated. I don't know if we were that dedicated to games that we would have to do that, because there's been other games that have come out that are yeah, here's all these time trials to get on the top of leaderboards, and it's I don't
know that I've ever been the high score chasing person.
Yeah.
I can't think of a game that I've done that with.
Yeah, maybe local
for a long time.
leaderboards, against friends, but
maybe
not online leaderboards.
Here's a fun fact. The most I've ever actually over an extended period of time done that, actually done high score chasing. This is a good one. Okay, early PS3 days.
Last guy.
It was right before I had. It's I hadn't turned 18 just yet, and so I didn't have a credit card or debit card or anything, so I didn't have anything to put onto my account to buy things. Right?
Yes.
It was a few months later down the line that I would actually go out and get that stuff sorted so I could actually start buying stuff. and you couldn't find PSN cards anywhere. Do you remember that?
I don't. I didn't really start doing like PSN stuff until like 2000, 2009
like,
almost.
The early days, like they talked about PSN cards at press conferences. They were like translucent, like silverish looking cards. Never, like, you would never find them. It took like a couple years for those to actually be readily available.
Yeah,
it's the weirdest thing. But I couldn't buy anything basically, so I was stuck with demos. And so I played the demo for Super Rub-a-Dub.
Oh, I still have
many
that.
times.
I have that on my console, the demo.
Never played the full game.
Yeah.
One of my favorite demos.
I think so too.
I love the demo.
I love how like cute and cartoony and everything.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
One day I want to go back and actually like get that game, and
that's a great looking game for an early PS3 game.
They should do Super Rub-a-Dub 4K.
Ooh.
Put it out on PS4.
So yeah, they're doing Parappa and Patapon and Loco Roco. Where's my
Super Rub-a-Dub?
Where's my Super Rub-a-Dub?
That's
Yoshida?
the next one on the building the list.
Yeah.
Get it out there. Super Rub-a-Dub.
Yep.
Geo Corsi. Call me. We'll set something up.
Yep.
So let's move on.
What if we should just buy the rights to Super Rub-a-Dub and
just buy out Super Rub-a-Dub?
Yes. That'd be funny.
From the makers of Collin and Curtis in the Morning and your favorite Lord of the Rings Valentine's Day cards.
Pretty much.
From Super Rub-a-Dub.
Hey, this stuff just writes itself.
Super Rub 4K. Psychonauts and the Rhombus of Ruin. Maybe you look at the list of games coming out February 14th, tomorrow, and you're like, none of these really tickle my fancy. Well, perhaps you're a Psychonauts fan. So this is the VR Psychonauts game. It's coming out February 21st. So that's exciting. But the cool thing here is if you pre-order this, you get Psychonauts on PS4, like the PS2 classic.
Yeah.
That they put out on PS4
with trophies.
About like a year-ish ago. Yeah. So you'll get that if you pre-order it immediately. So you and I were talking about this. I'm actually considering doing this.
Yeah.
Because I never played the original Psychonauts.
Yeah. I've never played Psychonauts. So like I think this is kind of like a great way to jump in if you're wondering about it. The full game Rhombus of Ruin is going to be $20, and I think they also say there's a 10% off.
I think there's a discount right now.
Yeah, for PlayStation Plus. So I believe this is set in between the events of Psychonauts 1 and 2. Like
that seems to be the case.
Something happens at the end of Psychonauts 1, and then they're like in a spaceship in Rhombus of Ruin, and they're like traveling to the next location. That was what I got.
Speaking of which, have you seen? There was like a video I saw out there. Or they were showing some early Psychonauts 2 gameplay.
I hadn't seen that.
Colin, it looks good.
Okay. Bright and colorful, like
graphically, like it looks really nice.
Like, is it like ukulele hot or something, or?
I mean, I think it has the potential.
Ooh, okay.
I think it's got the potential, but you know, we gotta wait for the first trailer to drop.
Yeah.
But it's good to see that game actually coming along because we haven't really heard much from it.
It was a while ago. It was like, what was it, almost a year and a half?
It was a while ago.
Yeah.
It was over a year ago.
Yeah.
Drawn to Death. So we talked about this a few weeks ago, how it was going to be an actual, wasn't going to be free to play anymore.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is a good
money
move
for it. Which I think we both agreed it was probably for the best.
Yep.
But we now have a price and a release date. If for some reason you're not playing Persona 5 come April 4th, you can play Drawn to Death on April 4th.
Yeah.
It's going to be $20 when it comes out, which I think is a pretty solid pricing for that game.
Yeah, I agree.
Not too expensive. I think that's a good amount there. Very curious to see how that game turns out. I really don't know what to think of it right now.
Yeah, I haven't read too much of the blog posts. I think I watched that video though with David Jaffe that they had that kind of commentary. Do we know even how much they're adding to this game that was in that was from like its beta version? Like, is there new weapons and
we talked about it the last time we talked about this game. They kind of discussed what all was going to be in it.
Okay.
It was a few weeks back now. I don't remember what exact episode it was, but we did talk about it.
Okay.
And I don't remember exactly, but it does seem like there's going to be definitely a bit more than what was in betas and stuff like that.
Yeah, just watching some of the gameplay, it looks like there's a good amount of like variety, I guess, in weapons and special abilities for each character or something.
I remember some of the levels standing out that we saw like from the last time.
Yeah.
So that's that. Walking Dead: A New Frontier episode 3 is not coming out in February. It's coming out in March.
Correct.
Which makes sense. I mean, they put out those first 2 episodes
on the same day.
On the same day, so you kind of expect that maybe 3 would be a little ways off, but that's yeah.
I can't remember the date, but there's like the retail season pass disc. I think is it coming?
I think it's this month.
Is
right?
it this month? I think it might be this month.
I think it's later this month.
Yeah.
Yep. Have you started playing that at all?
I have not. I have not downloaded.
Have you not?
It yet.
Okay.
Nope.
You're my go-to for Telltale right now.
Yeah, I might. I'm
Guardians,
thinking about
at least.
I'm thinking about waiting a little bit to do.
Okay.
New Frontier.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Yeah. Puyo Puyo Tetris. We already knew it was coming out on PS4. We have a release date now. Coming out on April 25th. Do you know what April 25th is, Colin?
The day it also comes out for Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, but there's something a little bit more important.
April 25th. Is it a game release date?
One of the 2 most important days of the year.
Is it a game release date?
No.
Is it 14 days after the PSN went down in 2011?
Yes, you got
I don't know.
That's really funny.
Sorry.
It is World Penguin Day.
Oh, great.
Yep, please be excited.
Yes.
Hey, Rocket League is getting some new cars. Do you know what kind of cars they are, Colin?
Man. I wonder if they're like toy cars or something.
Maybe.
Tell
me about this.
They're getting Hot Wheels, which...
Hot Wheels.
I like Rocket League. I don't know how excited I am for this content drop, as it were. So there's 2 new cars that are coming out.
Are you telling me you weren't super into Hot Wheels?
I was not super into Hot Wheels when I was a kid.
Who are you?
I was into other things like Transformers.
Oh, you could be into both.
And those Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I liked all 3 of
I
those.
don't know. I think I had some Hot Wheels, but I didn't really. There was like this toy that I had that was like a Daytona track that like had batteries and stuff where like you'd basically just like set the car, like you'd buy a like pretty good sized track of
the
like
Daytona 500.
Yeah, the Daytona 500.
I got that.
I think they were they magnets or something, and they just went around in circles.
Yeah, they were like
stuff.
RC cars or something.
Yeah,
I got it for Christmas one year.
Yeah, same here.
We woke up at like 3 a.m.
Yep, same here.
And weird. Are we like clones?
Yeah, I was at my grandma's and they hid it under my bed when I was asleep in Christmas,
man.
and I didn't know where it was, and they're like, "Oh, look under your bed. You might have something special." And then I opened it up, and that was that. So
mine's a little different. My dad woke me and my sister up at like 3 a.m. and said, "Hey, we should go play with this Daytona 500 track that we bought you for Christmas." And I went, "What?"
Nice.
And that was like, it's so funny. It's like simpler times, right? Because like now it's, when you think about Christmas or birthdays or like what's the big gift that you want? Yeah. Now it's like some tech thing.
Yep.
Or like some like computer or laptop or tablet or game or console or whatever. Like those are the big things, a Nintendo Mini or whatever.
Yep.
Like in those days, it was, I want the Daytona 500 track.
Yeah.
Says a person who now cares nothing about NASCAR.
Yeah, no, me neither. I don't either. I was big into, a side note, I was kind of big into like wrestling back then, like WCW.
Okay. I also, yes.
I was big into that.
Years.
And had like toy figures and had like a ring and everything. And
yeah,
I really can't. I could care less about wrestling now at this point in my life.
Macho Man passing hit me real hard.
Oh,
he was my favorite growing up. R.I.P. Dude, the Hot Wheels DLC for Rocket League is super cool.
I think it looks all right. So there's 2 new racers that you can buy. I think they're $1.99 each, just like the other ones.
Okay.
It's the Bone Shaker, which has like a skull on the front. It looks kind of like your standard kind of Hot Wheels car. Like you would maybe find, like they do look like Hot Wheels cars, but I kind of also think all the other Rocket League cars look like Hot Wheels cars.
These look a lot more like Hot Wheels cars than the other ones.
And at least they have Hot Wheels branding on the side of them.
Oh, well, that helps.
Yeah,
yes.
And then the Twin Mill, I believe, or Twin Mill 3? Twin Mill the third. There's like three dashes next to it. There's also decals that you'll get with it for both of those. And if you don't decide to buy those, you can get a Hot Wheels topper. You can get a Shark Bite topper, and you can get a Hot Wheels antenna.
All right.
And
so I was gonna ask you what your favorite Hot Wheel car that you had when you were a kid was, but it maybe sounds like you didn't.
I don't know. Like I was a big Florida Marlins fan when I was a kid. Like I still love the Florida. Like I love the Miami Marlins now, but I might have had like a 1997 Florida Marlins World Series champions Hot Wheel car or something.
I once had a Hot Wheels car that was a toilet seat.
How's that work?
It was just a toilet seat with wheels.
Huh.
Yeah.
They're grasping at straws back then.
8-year-old Kurt was very excited about that. Another Christmas present.
Just imagine what you could do with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you would race Hot Wheel tracks, of course.
Of course.
We had, if we are continuing to share stories.
Yes.
Side note, tangent, Hot Wheel related. I had a game called Stunt Track Driver on PC. Okay, I believe it was Hot Wheel branded. I think that's the case because it was straight up. It had a campaign where it had tracks, but it was all like Hot Wheel kind of tracks, and you were driving cars. But it had a track creator where you could like take Hot Wheel pieces of Hot Wheels tracks, basically, and you could create your own tracks in like a big like garage setting. And so we used to have like tournaments between me and my friends of like creating different tracks and like racing them and seeing who could do it the fastest. A lot of fun. Stunt Track Driver on PC. Yeah, cool. Great game.
Yeah.
I remember it being great.
Cool.
Anyways, let's head on over to Siberia.
Not the real Siberia. I don't think it's the real Siberia. Maybe it is. I can't remember.
You don't know?
It's like I played the first game and it's been a while. Okay. But I think it's like, I don't know. It is kind of by Russia, I think. Can't remember if it's.
Let's get the map out.
Let's get the map out.
Figure it out.
This is, you know.
I was not good with geography.
Me neither.
Siberia 3.
Yes, coming
Talk to me, Collin.
Coming out April 25th to PS4. So right now, Siberia. Well, I guess not right now, but I can say right now. Siberia 1 and 2 are on PS3. I wish they would get remastered, or not remastered, but at least put out on PS4. These are like old point-and-click adventure games. So Siberia 1 looks a lot like Siberia 2. So I think it's been like close to maybe 10 years since like we knew like a Siberia 3 was coming. But so like we all talk about, our Last Guardians or our Duke Nukem Forevers or our Final Fantasy 15s and stuff like that. But like kind of on a lower
you're
scale.
Just sitting off to the side of the room going, but guys, Siberia 3.
I know, right? Exactly. So I didn't really know about Siberia until the game got released on PS3 and we got a code for it. Which I was really kind of enamored with it. I think it was pretty cool. It follows this gal named Kate Walker, and she just kind of goes on these adventures trying to solve these riddles. She looks like a normal average girl, but have you watched this trailer yet that I linked to in the notes? One thing you'll notice is she looks a lot like Lara Croft now.
Okay.
So I don't really know how to feel
new
about
Laura?
that. Yeah, I'd say new Lara Croft.
Okay.
Yeah, not like
new Laura.
Lara, I think. Someone's gonna correct us. But yeah, like there seems to be like more cutscenes, and it almost looks like a Telltale kind of style game. But I hope there's still kind of some point and click adventure roots to it.
Yeah.
So I'm still looking forward to it. I think I'll definitely play this. I don't know if I'll buy Siberia 2 and play it, but I maybe just
you gotta look up the story.
I know I gotta get my lore in.
Yeah, on your plane ride to Siberia.
Yes, exactly. With my Nintendo Switch.
With your Nintendo Switch in hand, of course, because at that point it will be out. I'm trying. Oh boy, my mouse is weird, Collin. Ignore what's happening in the dock.
You're copying and pasting things all of a sudden.
Well, I'm like trying to delete things as we go through.
I see that.
But like my mouse, like when I try to click and drag for whatever reason, it keeps reading it as 2 clicks. So, anyways. Okay. Let's talk about Redout.
Yes.
So Redout official is coming to PlayStation 4 later this year. Redout is basically Wipeout.
Like they couldn't even try
Well, I believe so. It's some ex-Wipeout devs.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure.
All right, I wasn't sure.
I think we talked about this before, maybe.
I didn't remember.
But I don't. We were talking about it because we were trying to decide if it had already been announced for PS4 or not.
Yeah,
because it got announced for the Switch.
Yeah, it was announced at the Switch thing, but it's coming to retail to PS4 and Xbox One. Later this year.
And it's straight up like this isn't one of those. Hey, it's like kind of like this game. It's like no, this is straight up Wipeout. Yeah. Like this, you just if you played Wipeout or even know of it and you watch this trailer, I wouldn't blame you if you got them confused.
It looks a little faster than Wipeout to me.
I think that's really hard to tell.
But it's not like F-Zero.
Because these games get ridiculously fast. Like once you get into harder difficulties and amp up the speed a bit. So. But regardless, excited about this, of course. You can never get enough like futuristic kind of really fast racing games.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got like at least 3 of them coming this year.
Yep.
Not all to PlayStation, I don't think, but very excited. But that is just sometime later this year. No specific date just yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it is coming.
Yes.
Ghostblade HD. It's coming out February 28th, the PS4. This is a shmup.
Yeah.
Cartoony shoot 'em up.
$10.
Bullet hell.
Sounds like it's probably like a HDified arcade game, perhaps. I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm. Looks cool.
Yeah, there's like 2-player local co-op, different gun types, different battleships.
Yep.
Different stages.
What you'd expect. Deformers. So this is a game that was supposed to come out tomorrow.
Okay.
By Ready at Dawn,
Yep.
who you would know from the critically acclaimed The Order 1886.
Or Daxter.
Of course. And Daxter. Both critically acclaimed
yes.
games. Deformers has been delayed. There's no new release date at all given.
Yeah, I was just in a GameStop and they were still showing trailers for Deformers and like I think they're starting to push that Deformers and the Has-Been Heroes and other Game Trust things. So
yeah, but not anytime soon.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Soon.
It's
yep.
Weird. So we'll update you on that.
And that's weird because they just had like a PC beta or something. I think. I thought I heard something.
Oh really?
Like yeah.
Huh. It's there was another delay this week that also has no new release date. That's a South Park game.
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah.
And that was another one that for me, I even was talking about it with a friend of mine a week ago, before the delay was announced. I was like, when they delayed it out of December, they said it was going to be, out before the end of March, but we hadn't heard anything from it since.
Yeah.
And I was like, like as recent as a week ago, I was like, that seems to me like if that game were to come out in March, it's still coming out in March, you'd think they'd start talking about it, and then lo and behold, it is pushed back, and that's also like no timing at all. They're just like sometime in the next year. So
yeah,
weird. That game especially, it's like I've confidence in them.
Yeah.
But I hope that game turns out okay.
Yeah.
And then we got 2 other things. This is like
the Curtis Alley
heading down Kurt Avenue here.
Yep.
So first is Zero Escape, the Nonary games. This is coming out March 24th on PlayStation 4 and Vita. Man, March is just ridiculous.
It's getting there.
At this point, it's absurd. So this is 999 and Virtue's Last Reward is what is in this. Both great, both highly recommended, I would say.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say too much about them because they are very story heavy and it's very easy to spoil these games, but I love Zero Escape quite a bit. And if you have not checked them out, now would be a good time to, especially if you didn't have like a Vita or a 3DS or even a DS. This would be a good time to check those games out. So you should do that.
So
and then go ahead.
I was gonna ask. So Nonary Games has 999 and Virtue's Last Reward. So Virtue's Last Reward is already on Vita. Is this Nonary Games version going to be anything different?
That's 999 was never on Vita.
Yeah, but I was just wondering about.
I don't expect Virtue's Last Reward to be very different on Vita.
That's what I just.
It's probably just a way to like, hey, I can get both of them.
Sure. Okay.
In a package. Whereas on PS4, these will both be new.
Correct. Yes.
To PS4. So actually, the first time any of these games have been out on a console, which is cool.
Are they on PC or something too?
I think this is coming to PC as well.
Okay, I was just wondering.
I believe something like that. I don't know. And then we have NIS America is having a press event later this week, and this is their annual February press event they have every year. If you don't know much about this event or don't really know what to expect from it, let's say you like NIS games, let's say you're a fan of Danganronpa, for instance, like I am. Maybe you're asking, what are they going to announce? What can I expect from this? Well, typically, this being NIS America's event, it's being held in San Francisco. We were actually invited to it, but we do not live in the area, so we will not be attending, unfortunately. But basically, this is where you'll have your localization announcements for the year from NIS. So, for instance, one thing that we do know is happening is Danganronpa V3. We will have the release date of that game finally. So that game came out in January in Japan. It has been announced for localization for a few months. They haven't given us a release date. But I believe in the email they sent us, they were like, yeah, we're going to announce that release date there. So not super surprising. I'm guessing probably fall would be my guess.
Okay.
We still have the remasters of the first 2 Danganronpas coming to PS4 in March. And then in the summer, we have the spin-off game coming to PS4 as well.
Yep.
So that will be good build-up to Danganronpa V3. And they've said, officially, 5 new games will be announced at this event. Now, I don't know if that is brand new games or just, hey, we're announcing these localizations.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But Danganronpa is like the big one that I know to expect.
Okay.
Beyond that, I'm not really sure what to expect from here. There's probably some other obvious ones I'm not thinking of. But that'll be an exciting event anyways. There's always at least a couple announcements there that are pretty exciting. There are a few games that I wonder we might learn more of. There's a couple NIS games coming out in the next couple of months that we might maybe learn a little bit more about. There's like that Rose in the Twilight game we talked about a few weeks back.
Oh yeah.
And then there's Birthdays. It's coming out like next month, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some NIS games coming pretty soon. So I imagine maybe the newer announcement games are things that might be a little bit later in the year. But regardless, we'll be talking about them next week for sure. So please be excited.
Yes.
Please be excited. And with that, Collin,
here we go.
We're gonna move into a brand new segment. We're gonna try something new. I don't know how this is going to go.
Oh, it's gonna go fantastic.
I'm a little scared, but you have assured me that it's going to go great, so I will put all my trust in you, Collin. So let's kick it on over and begin a brand new segment for 2017, which is Collin's Great PlayStation 3 Trophy Hunt 2017 edition.
Yes.
Collin,
round of applause.
Please explain what madness you have embarked on.
All right, so look, I love trophies. I also love Miitomo, but I love trophies. So,
and for someone who loves trophies and is still behind me by a few levels, I don't know, man.
How many platinum trophies you got? All right,
I don't know.
Regardless, so every once in a while I just get enamored by trophies, and a lot of times I play games with trophies, and like one recently was BioShock on PS4. So BioShock 1, 2, and Infinite on PS3, I've platinumed all 3 of them. I bought the BioShock collection. I played BioShock 1 again on PS4. I platinumed it again. And every once in a while, you have that realization that you're like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah, exactly.
And
but my realization is, what is Collin doing with his life?
Yes. So, but then I just can't. Then time passes, and then I'm like, I got to do trophies again, and the cycle just repeats itself. Like I just trophy hunt for a while, and then I'm just like, what am I doing?
And the thing we need to point out, and maybe people have gotten a hint of this in recent in other episodes before in the past, but it's not just like, hey, I got to get the platinum. It's kind of like what you mentioned with BioShock, but like with other games, that aren't like, oh, it's so amazing, we should replay it multiple times. Sometimes you will specifically buy like different versions of a game across PS4, PS3, and Vita, just because they have separate trophy lists.
One of the most important games,
if I remember correctly,
yes, continue. I know where you're going with this.
You bought like Life is Strange twice.
Yes, I did. I bought
because it had different trophy lists.
I bought when Life is Strange was becoming the hit that it was. 3 PSNStores editors. I think you could probably guess which 3. Bought Life is Strange on their PlayStation 4. And one PSNStores editor bought it on the PlayStation 3 because I knew there was 2 versions and I was going to double dip. So I played it on PS3. I mean, I've played now. I have the platinum on the PS3 and PS4 versions.
Long story short, so we can get into your new games that you've been buying.
Sure.
You have a history and a track record of we'll say making interesting purchasing decisions for the sake of trophies, in a way that any normal sane human being maybe wouldn't.
If I know that I can buy a game that's on PS3 and PS4, I will just go ahead and buy the PS3 version. So then at some point I could play the PS4 version and get like double trophies, because I pretty much know it's going to be pretty much the same experience. So like I played Life is Strange on PS3 and I played Life is Strange on PS4, and with like one glitch in episode 4, I really couldn't tell the difference between.
So you've been making some purchases this past week.
I have been making some purchases this week.
You kept them hidden from me.
So I have 3 games to talk about this week.
Okay.
The first one is actually a game that I bought way back in 2009. I achieved the first trophy on it was July 17th, 2009. I achieved this trophy.
It's a different time then.
And it was I'll get to the game, but it was for the trophy was called Get Rich. And the game was Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection. And it was game and Alex Kidd collect 1,000 currency, which is probably pretty easy for a gold trophy. So I decided to go back and platinum Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection. And so it's just a bunch of random kind of tasks. So like I'm looking on my phone, like Golden Axe 2, complete the tower level. Golden Axe 3, use magic 10 times.
And what better way to kick off your great trophy hunt of 2017 than with a Sonic collection?
Absolutely. I could not agree more. So yeah, I went back and played stuff like Vector Man, Streets of Rage, Super Thunderblade. I already had like all the Sonic trophies back in the day, so stuff like Sonic 3, Sonic 3D Blast. I did have to beat Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, which actually isn't as hard because you can just use a password and skip to the very last level.
Oh, Collin.
But it's still really tough on the last level. It's like super fast. It's still tough. So I platinumed Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection. Got that out of the way. I believe that was platinum number 82 for me.
Oh, okay.
So then I went out trophy hunting in the stores, and I bought a game.
Can I help you, sir? No, I'm fine. If you need anything, just let me know.
I'm here for the trophies.
I'm just here for trophies.
I bought a game by their Axis Games, which you may have heard of before.
Yeah, I have.
Called X-Blaze Lost Memories.
What?
Which is apparently like, it really felt like a graphic novel, but is
what?
which is a prequel to apparently the Blaze Blue series of games, the fighting game.
I know some
Okay,
X-Blaze.
so you know some X-Blaze. Okay, so this is also on
PS.
This is on PS3 and it's also on Vita, and so which is also great because I could just buy the Vita version and also do all the trophies again. But I bought the game super cheap, and so I went and played through that. Got all the trophies. Curtis, would you like to take a quick guess? The trophy is Omnipotent, which is obtained all the trophies in the game. Guess how many people have this trophy, percentage-wise?
4.7%.
You're looking at 60% of people who have X-Blaze Lost Memories have the platinum in this game. So, that silence, I know, it's incredible.
Okay.
This we're almost talking like, I looked up like, I do not see. Here's the other thing.
This is like Telltale Games level.
Well, I see. I don't even think Telltale Games have that many people.
Probably not
completed them.
That's got to be one of the highest percentage, like platinum.
Next to probably like My Name Is Mayo, which I do not even have that game.
You know what though? Yeah, I think anyone who buys My Name Is Mayo is probably doing it specifically for that reason.
Probably. I will say I do not have My Name Is Mayo, but I will say I can't
that's
say
certainly
I won't ever buy
that's
that.
got to be part of the trophy hunt.
Oh,
you know, part of the hunt.
You know, when it gets marked down from 99 cents, you know.
Oh, of course. You're waiting for the discount. Waiting for it to be on Plus.
Yes, exactly. So I played through X-Blaze, and just really quick about the game. There's not much.
Shocked.
A lot of just collectibles to go around and get. It's like a 5-hour platinum. There is another X-Blaze game called Code Embryo, which is just about the same length, or not about the same length, but like is also pretty easy to platinum, but apparently it's like 20 hours instead of like 5.
Yeah, I think Code Embryo is the one I'm thinking of, because I was like, that's a kind of a decently long game.
Yeah, so Lost Memories is actually the sequel, I believe.
Okay.
To Code Embryo, and Lost Memories came out in 2015, I believe.
Lost track.
It's on PS3. But it's like, it kind of plays like a graphic novel, a lot of like cutscene stuff, no English voice acting, just all Japanese.
Let me ask you, did you read the cutscenes or did you skip them?
I paid no attention to what in the world was going on. I really did not care.
You literally spent money just to have the platinum trophy.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, you know what I think we need to do before starting this? Do you feel comfortable keeping a price tally on this hunt?
No.
Okay,
but there are some games like, man, like
I didn't know if they were cheap enough.
There's a game that I bid on eBay that we'll get to probably at some point in this segment. That's like it's like 99 cents with free shipping. It's
well,
like,
because I was thinking we could like extreme coupon this segment. You know, we could tally it up and be like, look at all the savings Collin did by waiting all these years to get the platinums in these games.
So let's just, I mean, I'll say right this, like on PSN right now, X-Play's Lost Memories is $39.99 for the PlayStation 3 version. I seriously did not spend anything close to $39.99. But yeah, so that's that game. Took not too long to get through. Just kind of let the dialogue go. I kind of was able to skip a little bit, but you just kind of walk around this kind of 8-bit style world and collect these memory fragments and also collect these tips. And probably within like 5 hours you'll have yourself
before we move on to game 2, I wanted you to give it a rating out of 5. What would you rate Code Embryo out of 5? I
thought the story was incredible. Didn't pay any attention to it, but man, was it great. It was fantastic. I don't know. I'm gonna say probably 4.5 out of 5 stars, and all the pluses being trophies. But honestly, as a gameplay, like it's just, I was also a person who, this game was very similar. I don't know if there's a lot of these like kind of visual novel games out there, which I'm sure there is, but it played a lot. I figured there were. I platinumed Amnesia Memories on Vita when it was free on Plus at one point, and I just used to walk through and just chose all the dialogue choices and did all these different saves.
Yeah.
So actually, we're moving on to game 3. Genesis Collection was game 1. This is game 2.
Oh, okay.
And we're now I have completed X-Play's Lost Memories. I've completed Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection. Now we are moving on to the third game, which I'm currently working the way through, which probably next week I will have another update on this game.
Okay.
But for, I think, $4 off eBay, I bought Terminator Salvation. If you've heard of
classic.
If you've heard of this game, Curtis.
I mean, it's the go-to trophy hunt game.
It's the absolute go-to trophy hunt game. So every single trophy in the game, besides the platinum, are all gold trophies.
Yeah.
And 9 of the gold trophies are just completing each level in the game. And then the last 2 are completing the game on medium and completing the game on hard. So of course, if you just start the game and you just beat it on hard, you have yourself a platinum right there. So I'm currently working my way through that. I have completed chapter 4 out of 9 chapters, and it's not great. It's a pretty rough third-person shooter. The cover mechanics work pretty well.
So
the shooting is pretty bad. Yes, Curtis.
Out of 5, what would you give Terminator Salvation?
Probably like a 2 out of 5.
And since we skipped it, Sonic Collection Generations, whatever.
Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection, Curtis.
Yes, Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection.
Super Sonic Acrobatic Rocket Power Battle Cars.
Yep, got it. Out of 5. How many Sonic rings out of 5 would you give it?
I would give it I'd probably give it 4 Sonic rings out of 5.
Okay, it's good.
They're very good versions of those Sega Genesis games.
Now, I got a couple questions for you. One, what's your end game here?
That's a great question. There's a lot of mirrors in my house, and I just have not decided to look myself in the face and go, what am I doing with my life?
You've just been looking at the floor every time you walk around?
Pretty much, yeah. I don't want to look at myself in the mirror. I wear a VR headset most of the time.
I close my eyes and all I see are platinums.
I really don't know what the end... So... I guess I just felt like
my alarm clock sound is just the trophy thing.
Yes, exactly. Oh, I know people who actually have that as their like ringtone.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yes, I do. I know people who've got the Legend of Zelda do thing.
No, I mean like the trophy. Trophy sound.
I've heard people who have that.
Good God.
Yes, I've heard people that have that. I think even a friend of mine might have had that at one point that we trophy hunt together.
Okay, my other question, since we technically got like 2, well, I'll say 2.5. Because one is a game you've had for a while.
Yes.
What? Just really quick, to give some teases for the weeks to come.
Okay.
Or months to come, even. We don't know.
Might
how
be
long
months.
This journey
might be
is
about a
go
month.
On for.
Yeah, might be about a month. I've got a list of games.
Okay. What are you looking at now? What are some games you're looking at? Maybe some games you bought, or maybe some games you haven't bought. What are you looking at now? What is your trophy hunt? You know what? If you like open up the Collin Great Trophy Hunt map of 2017, you got the map in front of you. You got where you currently are and your destination of looking yourself in the mirror. what games are in that pathway that you need to get through?
So one that I could probably call this one out because it actually is a free plus game that I actually plan on getting to is Anna Extended Edition. I do plan on playing through that. It does not have a platinum, but I really find that, other than just the trophies, I really find that game really interesting.
Like, what are the games that you're gonna need to go to, like some shady shops, some mom and pop dealers? So you're gonna need to seek these games out.
So
bargain bin it.
How can I? I'll just tease it without saying the exact names. Curtis, I think you could expect a Cabela's game in the near future that may or may not support PlayStation Move.
Okay.
You might expect maybe one, maybe two of this developer / publisher called Telltale Games. I don't know if you've heard of them or not.
No.
Which I don't know if you knew this though, but the trophies are like really easy on Telltale Games. Did you know that?
I was not aware.
Okay. So yeah, there's some Telltale games we might get some trophies in, which would be really good. And I'll tease one more. Maybe there was a really bad Jurassic Park shooter from back in like 2008, 2009, perhaps, or something like that. That we might talk about in the future. But there are other games as well. Those are not the only games that I have.
You gotta keep the good ones secret.
I gotta keep the better ones. But I will go this far. So far, and I don't know if I'll absolutely say I will never do it, but I have no plans of doing anything like Hannah Montana. Or apparently Barbie and her sister's puppy rescue.
So that's where you draw the line, is Hannah Montana.
Apparently those two games are very easy to platinum, which like I don't know if I could even bring myself to play Hannah Montana. So
I mean, at this point,
it is the best of both worlds, though.
It is. With it, you will get the best of both worlds.
The PS3 and the PS4 version.
And with that, it comes to an end.
Yes. Stay tuned for next week.
Please be excited.
Be excited.
I don't. Okay.
This is going to be good.
Let's talk about some games we've been playing. So we got a list here. We got, some of these I don't want to spend too much time on.
Yeah.
But Collin, I'll let you go first.
Okay.
So you got a couple games here.
Yeah.
What do you want to start with?
Well, speaking of another Arc System Works game, who did X-Blaze, we also have Double Dragon 4 that came out. Was it just this last week? Was it, or the week before? I can't remember. On PSN.
A couple weeks, almost a couple weeks ago.
Something like that, yeah. $6.99 PSN, 8-bit style, kind of just like the other Double Dragons. I think takes place after Double Dragon 2, which I don't know what happens in Double Dragon 3. I've never played
the prequel.
Oh, it is a prequel? Okay, because
I don't know.
I've never played a Double Dragon game before, which when I first started playing, I thought my impressions of it were good. There's a lot of screen tearing, which I don't know if that's just like supposed to be like some nod to the NES style or something, but it's like very noticeable and like very annoying. But sprites look really good. Characters look really good. A lot of the hit detection, I believe, is off. So like the punches feel good, I guess. Like when you punch somebody, like you feel like you're right up next to somebody and you punch. But there are times like I could kick somebody and they'd be like feels like an inch away, like on the screen, and like I would hit them and they'd go flying. And like I don't really know if like that's all that great. There's almost kind of like a way, I don't want to say like to cheese it or whatnot, but like there's just kind of like I've heard some kind of things about like if you just walk to the bottom of the screen, the enemies can't hit you. So if you like literally stand at the bottom of the screen, no enemies can hit you, which is kind of weird. I think it's very hard. I think there's people who have beaten it. If you beat it, you unlock this tower mode, which I guess has like 100 floors and there's like trophies tied to that. I think it's pretty hard. I think there's 12 missions. Some missions are super short. And you have like, so playing it single player, you have like 5 credits and you have 3 lives. If you lose all 3 lives, you lose a credit, so on and so forth. The worst part about this game is that there are platforming sections, and the platforming is not handled very well at all. And so, of course,
thinking about the way games like that controls, it doesn't sound fun at all.
It's not fun. So when I first started playing, I was like, it's okay. But like the more I played, I was like, this just is not fun. So of course, like if an enemy, you have like a health bar with like one life, you have like maybe like 8 hits or something like that. But if you miss a jump, you lose a complete life. Like you lose a whole life there, which is just infuriating. And so I was somewhat enjoying the game. I've only gotten to like mission 9, I think. I just cannot beat this game. So I decided to have a friend come over, and we decided to play in co-op. And so instead of having just 5 credits, we have 7 credits. But of course, we share the credits.
Double Dragon mode.
Double Dragon. It was not fun at all. I was experiencing a lot of glitches. There was one part where I was getting ready to do a platforming section, and my character was just like literally floating in the air. And I was like, I don't know what is happening. And then I like walked over the edge. I was like, oh, I'm floating in the air. Maybe I can just walk across the whole level. So then I just walked across the whole level, and then my character just dropped off the edge and went straight down into the pit and killed me, and had to respawn, stuff like that. There were other times where like there's like you're on this like platform that goes up and down, you got to jump onto the next section, and my character would like you want to try to jump at like the highest point, but if you jump too high of a point, your character will jump, it will leap, and then will hit like the top of the invisible wall that's on the ceiling, and then your character will just drop straight down and it'll kill you. I was very frustrated. I did not have fun at all playing co-op in Double Dragon 4. This is a game I do want to... I think I've probably tried like 4 or 5 times in total trying to beat this game, and I just cannot do it. And I don't consider myself like a bad player or anything like that.
Right.
And the enemies even just...
I mean, look at how many trophies that you have.
I have 83 platinums, so I'm not trying to say that's a... you know, a margin of like, come at me, bro, or whatnot.
Yeah, keep going. No,
but Curtis is just like, just keep digging yourself into a hole. There you go.
That's fine.
But so especially in playing single player, enemies just like when they knock you down, they all just gang up on you, and right when you stand up, they just knock you down again. It's just not all that fun. But the one thing I will say that's kind of a great redeeming quality about this is I think you should, if they have it up there, definitely like YouTube the soundtrack to Double Dragon 4. It is very good. Very like rock, kind of like, I don't know, just makes you kind of feel like a badass a lot of times. When you're playing an 8-bit game, doesn't, you know, it's kind of weird, but I really enjoy the soundtrack to Double Dragon 4. But so far, the more I'm playing, the least fun I have. There are unlockable characters. Once you beat the game, you can play through the tower mode with different characters. I think like one of the series staples, like a Bobo, is in there, and he has different moves. And so each character has different moves. And you can play through there's like trophies for completing the
There's like a tower mode too, right?
Yeah, there's a tower mode. And of course, this is just the only thing I can go off of is what I've heard. And it's
because you haven't unlocked it.
Because I haven't unlocked it. You got to beat the game to unlock it.
You got to get good.
I got to get good. Gotta go fast.
That sounds like a bummer, like, because you think like this was announced out of the blue, like end of December.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, you remember Double Dragon? We're making a new one, and it's totally in the style of the old games. Like, and that to me, it's like, yeah, if you like Double Dragon, that should be super exciting, right?
Yeah.
It sounds kind of like a bummer because they got like some original people back.
Yeah. It just doesn't feel. I don't know if I necessarily want to say it doesn't feel polished, but what I'm going to say makes it sound like it's not polished. It just looks like there's not enough care taken to it. It's just kind of like, hey, we made a Double Dragon.
There's a bunch of like glitches, and also I think there could be an effect of like when you need to be careful when you make games of this style, and it's like, oh, it's like the old 8-bit or 16-bit or whatever. Sometimes like those games don't play very well anymore.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's the case specifically for Double Dragon. I don't want to say that, but I think sometimes you can run into that situation of like, yeah, but we kind of view those games with rose-tinted glasses in some cases. So, you know, I don't know if that's the case here, but you are not the only person I've heard kind of rag on this game.
Yeah, which is
so
it's really kind of sad because I remember when I first started, like my first run through the game, I was really kind of having a fun time with it. I was really enjoying it, but every single time I play it now, I just have a worsening impression of the game. So I just feel like
that's unfortunate.
This is something I do want to record a video on and probably put up a review. But honestly, probably the more I play,
the more
the lower the score is probably going to be.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So let's move on. Here's a game I think we've both played. I've played probably a little bit more than you have. 2064 Read Only Memories.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a gameplay glimpse that is up now.
Cool.
If you're watching this, so you can check that out. It's about 40-ish minutes.
Nice.
It is essentially the entire prologue chapter. I think that's a pretty good chunk of game to show without showing too much, of course. It's an old school point and click adventure game based in Neo, San Francisco.
Definitely old school because like you've got like talk and take and stuff like that.
So you can use instead of using a cursor like on PS4, for instance, you can use the D-pad to kind of switch around to different things in the environment that you can interact with.
Yeah.
And yeah, when you select it, it's like there are different icons that show like you can look at it, you can talk to it, you can use an item from your inventory on it, and things like that. So, Collin, you said you played a little bit. It sounds like you've played maybe 10, 15 minutes less than me.
Yeah.
Although at the point that this podcast comes out, I will probably have finished this game. I plan on trying to get through it over the weekend. Because I'm pretty excited to, because from what I've played, about the hour or so that I have played, I really like it a lot.
Yeah.
I think the writing is really good. That like the character Turing, it's one of the first characters you're introduced to. Turing is this robot, and yeah, you got to watch the video to see it. Like you'll understand once you start listening to Turing talk, and the way that it goes about doing things is really funny. I like, especially at your expense.
Yeah, I've noticed
like,
that where he's just
like, oh, we're gonna go over to this guy's house. By the way, I already took the liberty of ordering a cab and just charging it to your account. That's fine, right? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool game. I like the kind of the art style. Is really neat. The cyberpunk stuff. I don't know. Did you spend a lot of time on your computer reading the like online articles?
I read a little bit. I don't remember.
So did you read the football one?
Might have to remind me. Maybe not.
There's one about the San Francisco 49ers and their like journey to try to get back to the playoffs. And it mentions teams like the Tokyo Titans, the New Mexico Luchadors. And like the 49ers are like, it's this big story for them because they've got the first ever female quarterback in the league, but she's like under suspicion of using like special robotic enhancements or cybernetic enhancements,
augmentations
yeah, so it's, if you read that stuff, there's like a lot of really cool world building and context for everything going on, which I like quite a bit.
Okay,
so that might be something we have more to say about. I don't know, what are your thoughts on it thus far?
I like it. It's kind of a weird thing to criticize, but I almost feel like there was maybe too much dialogue, especially like that first encounter with Turing. I just felt like I was just there for a really long period of time, just talking. Just
Turing just goes.
Yeah, he does, and like
it doesn't stop.
And like I don't know if that's like anything I have against the game, or if that's just like just the character or whatnot.
But I think part of that is probably it's the prologue, it's the opening of the game. There's gonna be a bit of that, and it's also point and click adventure games. You're probably gonna have a lot of dialogue to go through, I would assume. So
yeah, I had trouble finding like what some things were, like especially on that you basically start the game in like your room, and I had trouble finding like what things were exactly. Like I didn't know, like there was like a white thing on the floor, and I didn't understand that was a piece of paper, and I saw this other thing with like circular, and I didn't realize those were my headphones.
Yeah, like, some of that stuff can be kind of hard to identify.
Yeah.
But I found that I kind of got used to it at the more, like, again, I'm just only an hour in or so. But I found, like, control-wise and also, like, in terms of recognizing things that you can interact with, I felt like I got used to it relatively quick. At least the more that you play. Yeah. And so you're basically, I know you're just getting to the person's house, so you're basically getting to the first, like, actual puzzle of the game.
Okay.
Which isn't too, it's pretty simple, but... That should introduce you to... I mean, it plays like a point-and-click adventure game. You're using items from your inventory and stuff like that. So, really cool game. We'll definitely have a review up, hopefully sometime this week. So maybe next week we'll have more to say about it.
Okay, cool.
Let's switch back to you. Okay. So you played The Flame and the Flood. How much of this have you played?
I've probably put in 3-4 hours, maybe.
Okay.
I haven't. I think there is an ending to this game. But
Well, so what? So you say that? What kind of game is this?
this is a survival game. So
Okay.
here we go again.
In the vein of maybe like a Don't Starve.
Yeah, and the Don't Starve. I was gonna say
Okay.
here I'm gonna start comparing things to games I've never played.
Well,
Like last week.
I have some experience, but you're saying it is like that, but it seems like it does have an ending, which would be new, which would be a bit different.
And I heard stories about like Don't Starve, like things just randomly kill you or something. Like
Don't Starve is rough. Don't Starve is a very tough game.
So this maybe seems not as rough.
Okay, what kinds of things are we doing here? What's the setup here?
So you start the game. It kind of seems like the apocalypse has happened. Maybe global warming has destroyed everything. There's a lot of water floating around.
Fire in the flood.
Flame in the flood.
Whatever.
Whatever.
I love the name, by the way.
Yeah, it's a really good name.
Yeah.
So you start off. There's two different difficulty settings. There's like a traveler and there's like more of an experienced mode.
Okay.
I've only tried the traveler mode, so it sounds like the other mode is just kind of like a more hardcore, down to earth kind of thing. There is even like a survival mode, meaning like just see how far you can get before you die, which I think is kind of cool. So you start off, you have a dog that just kind of randomly brings you a backpack. And you play as this girl, and you basically have, I think it's 4 different meters. I guess like 5, including your health. Mm-hmm. So you have your like hydration, so it's like water. You have like food, and then you have like your body temperature, and then you also have like your sleep. So these are kind of like 4 different bars you have to like manage at the same time. So you quickly get on a raft, and so I would say one of the hardest parts of the game is actually controlling the raft. Well, like it's very easily you could die. Like you could be having a great run, but then you could be controlling the raft and accidentally run into too many things, and you would just sink, and that would be your game over.
So you're in like the wilderness, there's rivers you're going through on the raft. I'm assuming you're stopping at different land.
Yeah, so you can stop at different land areas, and they're differently marked.
Do you set up like camp? Do you?
You can. Mostly the only thing is like you're constantly pretty much moving forward. So it's basically like, hey, I'm gonna stop at this place. It's got a church, or maybe there's like a hardware store or something.
Okay.
And it tells you like, hey, this is this place. Like, okay, great, you've stopped at something like this name or something. And I think it's procedurally generated in that way.
So I guess that's the cool thing though, is like, let's say Don't Starve, for instance, or a lot of these survival games, sometimes you'll have a base of operations where you'll build up over time. But you're saying in this game, like, you're constantly moving.
Yeah, so it's I guess like I was trying to think of something I could compare it to, maybe just to help. But basically, so if you go to this new area, it's got a church. It'll say like, hey, it's got maybe like usually churches have clean water. It's got great shelter, and there's like maybe this kind of certain kind of supply, or like has first aid or something. So basically, you go around this small area once you get off the raft, and you just kind of find different boxes, try to plumage through things. I don't know what the correct word is. But basically, you're stocking up on resources to then continue to get back on the raft and go downstream.
So if you keep moving, does the story like give you information on where you're headed to? Is there any particular place you're going?
So one of the first things I got, there are different like, I can't remember what they're called. I think they're just like tasks or something. But with like the first, like, so some tasks are like even and they give you rewards. Some tasks are symbols like craft this or something like that for a thing, and like that's just like a kind of a side mission. But the first one is like you get like this broken radio. It's not broken, but they basically tell you like you need to get to a higher place for this radio so you can signal maybe they're a survivor or something like that. And there's like different regions. So I think like after I got to the 4th region, which takes like maybe about 20 minutes of gameplay, and of course if you die, like you gotta start pretty much the whole thing over, unless you do get to some checkpoints that you could restart back at the last region. But then of course, if you're already kind of screwed, you might have to just start the whole thing over.
Okay.
But the farthest I've gotten to is I think like region 6 or 7. But region 4, you find like this big radio tower, and then it kind of gives you like another mission. So there is kind of like story sparsely put in there, which I think there's like, you're almost kind of like led to believe like there's a settlement of people that are there. But the big kind of draw of the game is definitely kind of managing the meters.
Sure, it's surviving. And
yeah, so like...
Is it natural wildlife like we'll say bears or wolves or something like that that could be hazardous, or are there monsters here?
I don't think there's any monsters. There aren't. The only so far animals I've run into are bunny rabbits, who are harmless.
Very dangerous, of course, yeah.
And you can catch them in a snare that you can craft with different items.
Yeah.
There are boars that come running at you and can either scratch you, or I can't remember if they use another word for it, or they can break bones in your body. Okay. Or the most vicious one are these wolves that if you get far enough in the game, like you can like craft like a bow and arrow. I've never been able to craft a bow and arrow yet, just maybe the random draws that I've had and items that I've found that I was able to do this or that. But it basically, if you see a wolf, like just get out of there, basically. So, which I pretty much just avoid all wildlife. The run I just had recently, I pretty much tried to avoid all wildlife, like at all. Like if I found a bunny, I would try to catch a snare, and you get meat from it, and you can skin it, and then you would get you get material that you can craft them into gloves or a hat or shoes or something like that, and that would help give you like better temperature. So, but basically getting to the end of the game, it seems like you really have to take over every single aspect of the game. So like you really have to craft the best food. Like if you want to complete the game, you really got to craft the best food. You really have to like probably kill one of those wild wolves and skin it and craft a blanket or craft a coat or gloves or a hat out of those kind of different materials so you can stay the most warm. You're probably going to have to find enough jars to stock up on enough water. You're going to have to stock up on other food, and then you're going to have to make sure you sleep at different parts of the day.
Okay.
So I think like if one of those meters goes all the way down to 0, that's pretty much like game over.
Yeah.
So
you're in trouble.
Yeah. So like there's a lot of times you're thinking like, okay, like I just got clean water. I'm good. I'm hydrated. And then like you could play for like 5 more minutes and you're like, man, I'm really hungry. I got to find food quick. And you get that
Very
food.
Stressful.
Yeah. You get that food and you're done with that. And then you start going down a little bit more and like, man, it just rained. And now my character is cold and it's wet and it's nighttime and like my temperature's dropping and you got to find shelter or a fire. It's a lot of stuff like that. And
a couple of questions.
Yeah.
So one, you have your backpack.
Yes.
And you're moving, so you're not necessarily stopped at one location for a long period of time.
Yeah, right.
So I imagine that probably limits the amount of supplies you can have.
Yeah, there are
how limited, if so?
So I think like the it might be 6 or 10, I can't remember, or like 6 rows or 5 rows. Okay. But let's say there's 5. So I think like the main character can hold like 10 items. The dog that's also with you, which I haven't really touched on, the dog can hold like 5 different items, which also kind of going back to it. The dog is really great at like pointing out like, hey, there's something over here. Or, hey, there's something over there.
I'd assume that the dog probably has a lot of different things you can have.
Yes. So if you like see corn or something, it'll like run over there and be like, hey, and start barking like, hey, there's corn over here, or something like that.
Okay.
And then I think the raft can carry like 20 items. So like you kind of
you do have your raft.
Yeah, you do have your raft and you can store items in there. So if you're like, hey, I don't have enough.
Is there any times where like maybe you're storing something in the raft and you go out too far? Is there any danger of someone stealing stuff from the raft?
No, I haven't seen anything like that. There are other people, but they're just like NPCs. A couple times I've seen these kids that just basically are just like starving and don't really know what is even going on. Which is kind of sad.
You gotta save them to get the good ending.
I don't know, but like there are times you can trade with people, and I haven't played as much yet that like, oh, I'll trade you this raft schematic for like this piece of meat or something like that, and I don't really know how good the schematic is, but I really need this meat because like I'm really hungry right now. Right. And so you can decide to like trade with people, or you can also decide to say like, I don't think I'm getting a very good deal out of this, and then you can just leave, stuff like that. And there are kind of a little bit of lore being like, do you know like how the world was before all of this happened? And
so there is like even whether there's an ending or not, there's some definite story stuff.
Yeah, so like most of the
there.
people I've talked to have been like, no, I've always just lived out here on my own. I don't really know what happened.
That's cool.
It's not like it's like they're trying to find like the source of what happened, like in part of the story and part of the lore. It's
the
not
flame
like,
in the flood.
yeah, it's not like Walking Dead, how it's like they never really explore like how to cure this or something like that, or why this happened, stuff like that.
I think it is a cool premise because you do have things like The Walking Dead where there is a apocalyptic scenario, right?
Mm-hmm.
An earth-changing situation where you follow a group of characters who need to survive, and they're constantly moving, usually towards a specific destination of, we need to get to this place because it has this, or we need to get to this place because it has this.
Mm-hmm.
But oftentimes those games don't really have these mechanics. It's a different kind of game. It just has that story wrapper. Whereas it's cool to have a game like this that is that kind of setting, but it is straight up like, no, this is a survival game. You do need to worry about all of these things.
Yeah, it is very much you versus nature in this game.
That's cool.
Yeah, I like it.
It's only $15, right?
I think so. It might be 20.
I believe so.
So
how does this game look? Because I've seen some pictures of it, and it seems to look really nice. Like, is it a...
I think the style is very nice. It feels very, like... It's kind of weird to almost say, but it's like if it was like it's almost like hand-drawn 3D.
Okay.
Almost. Like usually you would think of something hand-drawn would be like something like 2D. But
it's like an isometric view.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But the characters, like the kind of character model on the girl looks a little off sometimes, but like there's like different crows and people. They each kind of stand out in their own style, which I like. This is it's like on PSN, it's the Flame and the Flood Complete Edition.
Right.
I haven't really looked up what the Complete Edition
came out
entails.
on Xbox and PC, I think, last year.
Yeah, it was last year. Yeah.
So I'm assuming whatever got added to it, maybe there's some bonus stuff.
It was almost like a full year ago because I think I saw some video.
It's been a while ago.
Yeah.
And then like how's the soundtrack?
It's very good. I think it's very good. I don't know if
very
it's
atmospheric or
the best part when like the soundtrack mostly kicks in when you're just on the raft and you're going downstream.
Okay.
So if you're like running around this church, you're running around this like schoolyard or something, there's not really any music from what I could remember. But there are some tracks that are just instrumental, but there are also tracks that actually have like lyrics to them, which are very catchy. So it really does kind of set the mood. It's another one. I mean, even in addition to Double Dragon 4, I mean, of course, they're very vastly different soundtracks. But I would I'd definitely try looking up the Flame of the Flood soundtrack as well. That's got some.
All right.
Got some
cool. Do you have any closing thoughts on Flame of the Flood?
It's something I want to play more, and it's something I definitely want to do a video on and probably review.
Yeah, I want to check it out myself.
The only thing, it's kind of a fight between me and the game that I'm like, hey, if I want to beat this game, I'm probably going to have to take down one of those wolves, and I'm probably going to have to, like, mostly for the
if you got to eat.
For the cloth. Well, not even just the eating, but like for the cloth.
Winter is coming.
Basically winter is coming, and I got to bundle up.
Are there seasons?
Not that I've seen. Not really.
Because in Don't Starve, like when I had my like month or two of getting really into Don't Starve, when winter came, it was a whole different ball game.
Oh, okay.
Like winter was one of the biggest threats out there.
Yeah.
It was intense. I could only ever make it like a few days into winter before just freezing.
I haven't seen anything like a seasonal change, and the only weather thing I could see is just like rain.
Like rain.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe later down the road, maybe there's like snow or something.
All right, so more coverage of Flame of the Flood coming soon for you.
Yeah,
video, hopefully review.
Yeah, it's just. I'm just going to be probably stubborn with this game because like I know I'm going to have to take down one of these wolves. I know I'm going to have to get these things. And it's like, but I'm just like, I can't, I just don't even want to go near those things. Like,
you got to do it. You got to get good.
Because you're just going to have this, they're going to have this
great
run. How
are you going to survive? How will you find the Flame in the Flood?
You're going to have this great run and you're like, all right, I got to take down this wolf and he's just going to eat you alive.
How much greater that run will be when you're like, I took the wolf down. And then a bear showed up. And I took the bear down too.
Only if
think about it.
Gameplay of Neo, I could cut its head off or something.
If only.
Speaking of Neo.
Speaking of Neo, I've been playing Neo. I beat Neo.
You beat Neo?
Yeah.
Beat Neo?
Beat Neo. What?
So what is Neo? What is that, the character's name? What does that mean?
No. The character's name is William.
Okay, define Neo to me?
I don't know. Are we talking about the PS4 Neo?
I don't know.
No.
Why is
the video game?
Why is it capital
know.
N, capital O?
I don't know. That's
Okay.
a great question. I don't have the answer to it.
Okay.
So Neo is often compared to another series franchise, the Souls series in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe closer to Bloodborne because it's a bit more fast paced. This is from Team Ninja. You may remember them from Ninja Gaiden.
Yes.
And other games. I've heard it compared to a lot of different things. Dark Souls, obviously, it's probably the quickest comparison anyone will make when you see some of the bigger systems in it. Because it has like the bonfire, but it's a shrine. The combat system, the stamina, the way stamina works, it's very similar. A lot of that stuff is very, very similar, very clearly inspired. But the difference, obviously, it's takes place in Japan. So it's been called Samurai Souls by some people.
Yeah, and you're an Englishman, right?
You're an Englishman. So the thing is, it's based off like a true story, loosely based, because there's some fantastical elements to it. But you're William. So if you're like, why is there this white guy? Because apparently there's like, this is like loosely based off a true story. This was an actual person. It's got some key figures from like history in it. So like, I guess one of the big differences is it attempts to tell an actual story, whereas the Souls game, it's a lot of lore based things. Where this has like cutscenes and characters that talk to each other, lots of dialogue. The story is just not good. It's like I completely checked out pretty early on. Just had no interest at all. It takes some weird turns towards the end too. But the actual part where you're playing the game is fantastic. The combat feels great. It is challenging. The bosses are really cool. Most of the bosses are really, really cool. I don't know that there's necessarily a boss that I don't like. But there are quite a few that I really, really like. This game is systems upon systems upon systems. It is maybe too complicated for its own good. It would take way too long to dig into them right here, but it's one of those things where it is so overwhelming because they keep piling things on as you getting deeper and deeper into the game. There are so many systems at play when really they probably could have cut 2 or 3, and it would have been fine. They insisted upon a loot system, kind of Diablo-style loot stuff going on, where every weapon, you can get multiple different types of weapon. They all have different stats, and every weapon has special effects, which are like really integral to the combat, because you might get a weapon that has like 137 attack, but then you've got another weapon that has 134, and that one, even though it's a little bit weaker, it might have some special effects that like increase the percentage of damage you do when you're in close range by a certain amount. And like, so you get these special effects that like could make a weapon that normally you wouldn't use actually really, really good. And so it's this really intense loot system that you can then like reforge and forge and combine weapons together to make them stronger. It is super complicated. It's not explained very well. And it's just kind of overwhelming. I think it's too much. It's one of those things where like, I think this game, we've talked about it before, like, we've had your Salt and Sanctuaries, of course, but we have other games coming this year too, some indie games too, that are definitely, their inspirations are worn on their sleeves. They're definitely very clearly Souls inspired, which I think is great. I like that. And I feel like Neo is another step forward in like having more of a subgenre of like action RPG where you have these mechanics that were clearly, obviously come from Demon Souls and Dark Souls, but they're in games that are actually quite different. And Neo is quite different from Dark Souls when you get past the kind of surface level comparisons. But it's one of those things where it's hard not to think about From Software and their games when you're playing Neo. because there are things that Neo does that I like better than Souls. I think Neo might have my favorite mimics of any video game. I just really like how they're implemented. And by mimics, I mean like you open the treasure chest and there's a monster.
You love mimics. I know you do.
Yeah, I love mimics, especially Neo's mimics.
Yeah.
They have like their version of the like illusory walls, which I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
So in Dark Souls, sometimes you can hit a wall and then the wall will vanish and it will open up a secret passage.
Oh, okay. But it's not hidden on the map or something like that.
No, you have no way of knowing basically unless someone leaves like a sign there telling you.
Yeah.
Sometimes like the more Souls games you play, you can kind of recognize of like, oh, this would be a good place to put a hidden wall, and then you smack it with your sword, and it's like, oh, yep, there it is.
Yeah.
But in Neo, the way that they're done is like really cool and interesting and like different. But at the same time, like the level design in Neo, just the world design itself, story and lore wise and characters, like all that stuff, it's just kind of like, it's fine. Story's not great. Level design, there are some highs. There are some really cool levels in this game, but then there are also majority are like these are okay, but they're not anything to like write home about either. So there's definitely like you can compare and contrast. You can say like there's things in the Souls game that I think are done just so much better. There are things in Neo that I think are done a lot better. But it really, I think most importantly is even though obviously if you look at like, okay, they've got bonfires, they've got, the way the levels wrap around themselves is the same. The combat system is very similar. The way your stamina management kind of plays into combat is very similar. But I think the most important thing is that it does a lot to try to make it its own thing. And so Neo definitely feels like its own game instead of something like another game that may just be like, this is almost too much like Souls, right?
Yeah.
I think Neo ultimately is successful in just becoming its own thing and carving out its own niche within this kind of emerging subgenre of action RPG, which I really appreciate. Even though some of the things that it does differently, like the loot system, I wish were different. I don't particularly care for the amount. There's just so much loot that drops. There is too much.
Is there like encumbrance or something?
Not quite. I mean, there sort of is. It's not really, that's not necessarily the issue. Okay. It's more that just like between missions, you're spending like 10, 15 minutes just going through all of this different loot that you picked up. And it's kind of already hard to understand how you can use that to your advantage. And so it's just this whole ordeal that like, the farther I got into the game, it's like, I don't want to deal with any of this.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that is Neo. It is great. It's really, really good.
Okay.
It's early in the year. It's one of my favorite games I've played so far, like next to Yakuza and Resident Evil.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. So it's definitely up there. And it will probably remain up there, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really good.
Now, is there any DLC planned for this game?
There is. There is some single-player stuff coming. I don't know when. Probably later this year.
Okay.
Yep. And finally, Collin, I've been playing this game called Super Gun World 2.
Sounds a lot like Enter the Gungeon, if you ask me.
And it's nothing like Enter the Gungeon. So this game came out last week, I believe. On I don't know if the Plus sale's still going at this point, but it's like $6 or like $8 if you're not on Plus. So it's very cheap. It's a one-person developer. It's basically like Mega Man and Zelda 2 mixed.
So it's like Shovel Knight.
Definitely some heavy Shovel Knight vibes.
Okay.
Definitely heavy Shovel Knight vibes. Which I think is just because Shovel Knight is very much inspired by Mega Man.
Yeah.
But this game asks the question, are you a bad enough dude to come out of retirement? Which is a reference to an old NES game. So basically the story here is Dwayne is like, he's like the hero, the savior of the world, fought off the alien invasion, and now he's gone into retirement. Except a new threat has arisen. The Extraction faction, they have come to take out President Eagle, who is literally an eagle. And so the tutorial level, you basically play as a P Eagle, and you go and you seek out Dwayne to bring him back and be like, the extraction faction's here. We need you. You are our only hope at saving the world once again. So here's okay. You have a large knife that you carry around that you can use to. You can break through vines that are in your way. You can break through like. Maybe there are some walls that you can break through to open up like hidden areas with like some coins that you can collect for purchasing reasons. You can also. So this world is blessed with guns that grow on trees. Okay.
I would expect so in a gun world.
Yes, a super gun world, in fact.
Ooh.
So what you can do is you can press circle and you'll throw down a seed, and the seed will instantly sprout a plant, and in the plant is a gun. And so you pick up the gun.
Sounds good.
You pick up the gun and just start taking out enemies. Or you can hold the button down, and you can throw and it will throw the seed. And instead of the seed sprouting a gun, it will sprout a turret.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm listening.
Right? So that is kind of your modes of attack, I guess. You can have a turret to take down enemies, or you can use your gun or your knife. The only thing is like the gun breaks. Or the turret and the gun both break, but like you'll be using your gun and it will just like break after a while, and you have to plant a new gun. I don't really know how I feel about that just yet.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure how much that might change. There are 3 modes you can play. You can play the regular mode is just through the story with RPG elements. So as you're taking out enemies, you're leveling up. You're getting more health, more attack power. So I don't know if that might lengthen the duration that your gun will stay intact for. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it does seem like it breaks pretty often. So you're always having to plant a new gun, which is just it becomes a bit of an annoyance because there's not anything special. You just throw another seed down and get a gun. So it's just kind of weird. I don't really know how I feel about that just yet.
Yeah.
But the levels themselves are you're going down the 6 members of the extraction faction, so it's very Mega Man like, except the exception here, at least in this case, is you're only able to take down 2 at first. The other 4 members, their locations are like unknown. So you have 2 options at first. You have one of them is called Nightmare. So 2 words, night and then mare, and it's just straight up a horse.
That's what I was gonna say. Is it a horse?
Yeah. So there's some pretty good puns in this game.
Okay.
But and then there's like salamander.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's good. There you can also climb on walls is one of the other moves you can do. So the levels are set up pretty similar to like Mega Man stuff. The way you enter a level, where it's like, oh, there's flashing text in the screen, and then your character like jumps in from the side.
Mm-hmm.
Very obviously Mega Man inspired. One thing I like is so like the text. I think there's a few different texts that will like flash at the beginning of a stage before you jump in, and one of the ones I kept getting was "Thy will be gun."
Okay.
I don't know. I was like, that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of different like items you can buy. There's another weird thing that I haven't played enough to see just yet. Is like once you beat a boss, like instead of like immediately getting that weapon from them, you go back to there's a town. There's like a hub town basically that you can go to, and you can buy different items from the gun shop, and that's where you'll buy like beating the boss unlocks the ability to purchase those guns, which are pretty cheap.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like you have to keep buying them because they'll break also.
Okay.
And so again, it's like the weapon durability stuff. I'm not sure how I feel about them, to be honest. It seems like kind of weird. Each gun also doubles as a turret. So, actually, if you watch, there should be a gameplay glimpse of this up right now. If you watch the end of the video, I try out one of the other modes. So there's another mode where you play through the story like regular, but there's no RPG stuff at all. So there's no leveling up. And then there's another where it gives you 1 life, and it just throws you into each level at random, and you just play to see how far you can get.
Okay.
But when it does that, you have all the weapons available to you. And so I was trying some of them out, and one of them just straight up like shoots out clones of your character. So I had like 4 Dwaynes just standing there.
Yeah.
With like 3 turrets on the ground. It was great. It was pretty great. But yeah, I don't know. And then there's like there's the hub town. And so when you go to the wanted board to be like, okay, this is the next extraction member I need to take down, it'll be like, oh, it's it's in a forest to the west of town. So you leave town and you go into a Zelda 2 style overworld. And as you're on your way to the location, like the level location, random enemies will just spawn into the world and like run into you. And you'll be taken into a side-scrolling kind of short little map that you can go left or right, a la Zelda 2.
Okay.
And that's another thing I don't know how I feel about. I like Zelda 2, but for a game like this, it's like I just want to go to the level and fight the boss. But nonetheless, like it's 8-bit style graphics. It's very like heavy on the kind of the dude, are you bro enough? Lots of like, if you can, what's the Broforce game from last year? That kind of style of humor.
Yeah.
Very prevalent. I think it's kind of neat. There's, like I said, there's a couple things I don't really care for that too much about it, but it's very cheap and it seems like a neat little game. So I'm enjoying it.
Cool.
And hopefully have a review of that up sometime in the next week or so. We'll see. But it's pretty cool. The humor so far I enjoy. I could see it getting kind of tiresome, but we'll see. I like the puns.
Yeah.
Big fan of the puns. With that, I think that's an episode.
It's a good one.
Yeah, that's going to do it.
Kind of a long one.
A little bit long, but we had a lot to get to.
Yes, we did.
So, hope you guys have a great week, guys and girls, I should say. Hope you all have a good week. Good Valentine's Day, whatever you have planned. We'll be here next week. As per usual. Collin, thanks for joining me as always.
You're very welcome. I'm sure I'll be 2 more platinums better.
I hope so. I look forward to it.
Me too.
It's been a great 70 episodes.
Yeah.
Here's to 170 more.